It started. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Evolve Project, and this is the Reinvention Workshop. And it's great to have all of you on board today. This program is titled Self Optimization, and it's intended to help you to create the kind of life that you want for yourself and to help you upscale your results so that you can get the most out of life. Many times we engage life as if we are helpless, as if there is no help that is coming from any body, or as if we lack the capacity and the intrinsic skills that is required to navigate our way through life. But if you critically looked, you know, down within yourself, you would understand that within you you have infinite capacities that almost makes you a god. Not almost infinite capacities that makes you a god that you can actually leverage in order to create the kind of reality that you want for yourself. And what this course is all about is helping you to unearth those realities, helping you to go down within yourself so that you can target, identify, and then target specifically those skills, identify and target specifically those potentials, and learn how to harness them and bring them out to the world, not achieve what you want. Now, I titled this program, this is a course, it's a 6 week program, and I titled it Self Optimization. So, why do we call it self? Why have I chosen to call it self optimization? Well, the reason I've chosen to call it self optimization is because of what you can actually achieve when you understand the term self optimization and how you can actually leverage it to build yourself to become almost like a superhuman. If you pay attention to this course and if you follow it through to the end, because it's going to be a 6 weeks program, you would come out of it not only refreshed, but you come out of it a new person that is ready to take over his own reality and then to create the kind of world that he wants that you want for your life. So we're gonna get started right about now. Okay, so I'm starting with this fascinating quote. It's an interesting quote that I love, and it's about the potentials or the relationship that we share with our world. The relationship that we share with our world. The reality, as we perceive it, places infinite demand on us. And for us to be able to match the demands that reality places on us, we must act in a way that nature has prepared us to act. Reality places infinite demand on man, and for that he must constantly reach into the reservoir of his infinite resource. And what is this infinite resource? The infinite resource that you have is the self. So everything about this course is about optimization. It's about learning how to make the most out of any situation that you find yourself. It's about learning how to find your way around the world in a world that is characterized with a lot of chaotic realities, a lot of chaotic experiences, and experiences that most times will feel that this experience is insurmountable and this experience there's no way to go about it. This is a course that will help you to learn how to create something out of nothing and to recreate your reality, recreate your world so that you can achieve your infinite potentials. So let's start with the word optimization because I think it's a very interesting word, and I think it's at the heart of this course, this program. Everything about it is optimization. So what is optimization? So the dictionary meaning, I just had to go back to the dictionary to find the basic meaning of what optimization is. The dictionary meaning of optimization says that it's an action of making the best or the most effective use of a situation or a resource. An action of making the best and the most effective use of a situation or a resource. And the underlying word there is resource. Now, to understand, to have a full appreciation of what of the meaning of optimization, what it actually means, let's underscore that word resource. What does resource actually mean? When we talk about resources, what does it actually mean? Natural resources, infinite resources, tangible resources, and intangible resources. What does resource actually mean? Again, we go back to the source, try to understand the dictionary meaning. What does the definition, of resource? What do we have in the dictionary about resource? And resource is understood as a stock of assets or value that can be drawn to function effectively. In essence, a resource is something that you can always go back to and draw value from. And it's gotten from two words, re and source. So which means it is the ability to go back to the original source of something. And the source we're talking about here is an asset, is a value. So resource is the ability to something that you can always go back to draw value from. That is what a resource is. Now, the question now becomes the self. How do we understand the self with respect to this question of resource, with respect to this issue of resource? Is the self a resource or not? For you to understand what the self is, you have to go back to understanding. I'll take you a little bit on a philosophical journey so that you can really understand how the question of self plays into what we are talking about. So, what is the self? If you look at the a basic experience that you're having in the world today, the experiences that you're having, you find out that you wake up in the morning, once your eyes opens, there's a lot of signals, hitting your senses. So your experience is characterized with a lot of signals hitting your senses. And in the presence of those signals hitting your senses, it could be thoughts hitting your senses, all of that swarming around in your consciousness, you cannot make sense when you look at a particular color. Let's say you're looking at the color green. You might feel that what you're looking at, let's say a bug or a leaf that you're looking at, is actually green. But in the real sense, it's not actually what you're perceiving, what you're seeing, what your senses are perceiving is not green. What they are actually perceiving are different wavelengths of light. So light that has its wavelength bended in certain ways, bended in different ways. So, but what happens in the final conception in your mind when you're looking at the light that is coming in different wavelengths is the perception of the color green. And that is the reason why you're perceiving it as the color green, is because evolutionarily speaking, your brain has come to evolve to identify the color green for it because of its usefulness for you to navigate your way around the world. And so that is a way for your senses to be able to distinguish between certain things, so that you can distinguish between a ripe fruit and an unripe fruit, a tree and a lion, or a plant, or a different plant. So this is your senses perceiving the world in different ways. When you look at the sea, a swim, or the ocean, you go to the riverside and you're looking at the waters, and as they are rising and falling, what you're looking at is not actually a river in its sense, because there's no such thing as river. What you're actually looking at is the water particles and molecules, combining and swimming around and vibrating at a very high speed but your senses perceive those things, but your mind is able to compress that information, and it's called verification. It verifies that flow of infinite balls of information in your consciousness. It verifies it and it uses it to create a single substance of reality, one that you can comprehend, and that is what it's called river. So this is what's virtually this is what actually happens in almost everything that we experience through our senses. We don't experience the world as it is. We experience it as it is useful to us. So the experiences, the signals that are coming from outside, be it light, be it particles of or atoms or water molecules or anything that you're perceiving, all of those things are coming into your mind and they are swimming around in your consciousness. So consciousness is the multitude of experience that you're having. But as these experiences are coming together in your consciousness, it creates chaos. It creates a lot of confusion. And so for there to be some kind of order, for there to be some kind of order in the cascade of these signals that are coming in, through your brain and through your senses, and the information is flowing through into your consciousness, your mind develops some kind of a traffic cop. And the essence of that traffic cop is to bring order, to bring structure, and to bring priority in the stream of conscious experience. And this traffic cop is what you call the self. So the self becomes the most functional element that makes your experience meaningful. It is what that actually turns the experiences that you're having into a meaningful substance, such that even as you are experiencing those things, you can know that you are the same person that went to the riverside yesterday, and you're still the same person today. So that self, the self is more like a verification, a coming together of all of these different experiences, a channel that actually allows for the balls of different experiences that are coming into your mind to have some kind of order, to have some kind of priority, so that there will not be a lot of confusion. This is what the self is. So, as you are experiencing all of these things, this is how it happens, and this is how the self comes into being. So, in the swimming of all of these experiences, in all of this information that is buzzing around in your consciousness, the self comes up to create order into it. Now, how does it create this order, and how is this self actually organized? So, in order to help you, before I go into that, to explain how the information that is buzzing around in your consciousness is organized, and the implications for what is happening in your daily life and the experiences they are having, I'm going to talk about how the self is organized. But before I talk about that, let me get feedback from you to know whether you guys are actually following, what you understand, and how you are actually, and if you've got any questions. So I think I'll go with you, Covenant, first. So if this were to be a physical presentation, then it will be easier for me to know my audience, to know how they are actually reacting, how they are actually getting the information that I'm sharing, and to know how it's sitting with them. So I need to, I'm sharing my screen, and as I'm sharing my screen, it covers me from you guys, so I don't see. So now I have to get feedback from you to know whether you get what I'm saying, and how it's actually sitting with you. And if you've got any questions, you can go ahead and ask. So maybe I will start with you, Covenant. You can unmute yourself. If you can hear me, unmute yourself. Okay, I'm not sure if Covenant can hear me. Dr. Eileen, can you hear me? If you can hear me, unmute yourself. Dr. Eileen, can you hear me? Okay. I don't think I'm getting any feedback from you guys. I think there's a problem, but there's some technical issues there. So I'm gonna go ahead. So how is the self actually organized? How is the self actually organized? Like I said, the self is a verification.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'll talk later. Thank you. I have to log back in. That's why.
Okay, but could you did you get what I was saying earlier? So I wanted to know if the recording, if the
Yeah,
transmission
the
was
recording was the first part was really good, and then you paused, and then you asked us question and give your feedback, and I can hear that the covenant is talking, but then it come across as like some watery sound, and for my part, I cannot unlock the speaker, so I have to go back out and come back in, and allow access to my speaker. So there's some technical glitches for sure. I feel like it's almost better to use Zoom, but I understand why we need to
okay.
use this. So yeah,
It's
go on,
okay.
please. Thank you.
Hmm. It's okay. So we'll take care of the technical glitches. And so if you're watching this video as a replay, you can just skip ahead so that you can get to the point where we avoid these technical glitches. So hopefully in the future, it will be much better and you wouldn't have to deal with some of these technical glitches. So we're going to get right back to it. So we talk about the self. How is the self actually organized and what makes up the self and how is it organized? So two things are actually involved. If the self includes everything that passes on in the consciousness, it follows that what we pay attention to over time, we shape the self. Exactly, that's true. The mistake we make with the self is that we tend to identify the self with the information we have attended to for a very long time. So let's say you have taken your time to attend yourself to the information about medicine. And over time, the self comes to remember what the self does is to map information, to organize that information, to bring order, structure, and priority in the flow of information in the consciousness. So as the flow of information in consciousness is happening, what the self does is to bring that order into it, to bring priority into, so what should I pay attention now and what shouldn't I pay attention? And that also determines what you're going to remember in the future. So if you pay attention to the information flow, the information coming into your consciousness, and let's say the information coming into your consciousness is about medicine, and you pay attention for it for a long period of time, you come to think of yourself as a doctor. And so when you're asked, who are you? You say, I am a medical doctor. But at the same time, you can pay attention to a different profession, a different kind of information coming to your consciousness. It could be the information of law. It could be the information of being a mother. It could be the information of being a business person. And in that sense, you come to identify yourself as a doctor, as a nurse, as a mother, as a father, as a business person. So, in essence, the self is neither any of these things. What it means is that the self can become anything that you attend you put your attention to. The self can become anything that consciousness is attended to. In essence, that's what it means. So, how does the self form its own content? What we pay attention, the self forms its content in two ways. The first is what we pay attention to. So what you pay attention to forms the content of the self. You become what you read. You become what you attend to. You become who you are comes from where you have spent most of your attention on, or what you have spent most of your attention on. So the content of your consciousness now becomes the self. And the second way the self comes into being, the self forms its identity, is how we pay attention to things. And how we pay attention to things is simply, by that I mean, is simply interpretation. It is from the interpretation that you give to things that the nature of the self will emerge. It is the way you interpret information, the way you interpret experiences, life experiences, determine how you process information. It is what determines how you process information. So it determines the way the content is organized in your consciousness, and which defines your personality. So I'm going to take that again. The way you interpret experience, it determines the way the content that you are experiencing will be organized in your consciousness, and it will come to determine the kind of personality that you're going to have as a person, as a human being. So for people who have agreeable personality or non-agreeable personality, or are very conscientious, it will determine the way the information that they are paying attention to will be organized. So what does this mean for you? The question now becomes, who or what is organizing the contents of your mind? Who or what is organizing the contents of your mind? Who and who is giving interpretation to the experiences that you're having in your life? Who is determining the significance of an experience in your life? Children, as we are growing up as children, as kids, we have not yet developed the faculty to interpret experiences as we are having those experiences. But as we grow up, we come to gain the maturity to do that. But before we do that, it is our parents, our teachers, our leaders in different areas of the society that interpret our experiences for us. But even as you grow up and become an adult, you still need someone to interpret the experiences that you're having. You still need a system to interpret the experiences that you're having. So the question becomes, who is doing that interpretation for you? Because remember, it is the person that is interpreting, or the thing, or the system that is interpreting the information that you're having, that will determine how the contents in your mind will be organized. It will determine your personality, and it will determine the kind of outcomes that you have in your life. So take, for example, two people have experience, two young people enter into the university and they want to study law. And the two of them are studying law at the same time. Both have come from a well-to-do family, or more like a rich family. But in the course of studying that law, one of them encounters the experience whereby his father's wealth was decimated because of taxes and because of people who came and preyed on his father's wealth and decimated it. His father was taxed, his father became bankrupt because people attacked his wealth. And that goes on to shape his concept of law. He comes to understand and see law, the legal system, as a way to protect the wealth of the rich. Whilst the other person who is having the same experience, who is going through the same law school, witnesses the experience whereby people living in low income areas have their farms and their lands decimated because a rich person came in and bought the whole land in that area. And so that changes his perception about how we should use law, and how we should invest in law, and what law is supposed to do in the society. And it comes to see law as a means to fight for the poor, as a tool of fighting for the poor. So you see two people going into the same experiences, they're having the same content coming into their consciousness, but the interpretation that they have gotten because of the way the experience came to them, the information, the content of that information came to be organized in their mind in a different way. One came out to see the law as a way to fight for the rich, to protect the wealth of the rich. The other person came out to see law as a way to fight for the poor and as a way to protect the livelihood of the poor. These are two people having the same experiences but having different outcomes. This goes a long way in determining the kind of experiences and the kind of successes we're going to have in our life. So it's important you understand how this actually plays out in real life scenario. The means by which attention becomes prioritized, like I said in the past, is called goals. The means by which attention is prioritized in the mind is called goal. A goal is a channel into which psychic energy flows. Therefore, the self can be considered as a hierarchy of goals because the goals define what you pay attention to. And whatever you pay attention to, the self becomes. So when we talk about how do we actually prioritize information, because remember I said in the beginning that the self emerged because as the flow of information is coming into the consciousness, it is so huge and it's so much that that the mind cannot carry this information, that it has to bring in some order, some structure, and some priority. This system that brings in order, structure, and priority, this traffic cop that is called the self, it is organized in hierarchy of goals. So that is why your life is simply a life that is directed and organized based on goals. You wake up in the morning, you start thinking, okay, I need to go and brush my teeth. After brushing my teeth, I will eat. After eating, I will do this. After doing that, this. Your mind and the ideas and what is happening in your consciousness constantly is just a system of hierarchy of goals. You're always thinking of what to do next, what to do next. After doing this, I will do this. After doing this, I will do this. What should I do with myself? What should I do with my life? How should I achieve this thing? How will I be able to become successful in this area or that area? So your life is simply considered as a hierarchy of goals. That is what simply the self is.
We saw. It's okay.
So that is what the self simply is. So please, as you're joining us, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I can see that you're joining. You're welcome. So as you're joining us, please, you ensure to mute yourself so that the noise in the background will be accommodated. We'll be able to accommodate the presentation. Thank you so much. So if you permit me, I will just go ahead. So simply the self is simply a goal-oriented machine. And what yourself is simply is a hierarchy of goals. And the problem we have in our lives is that whether or not you like it, yourself will be oriented towards certain goals at each time in your life. At certain moments of your life, yourself will always be oriented towards certain goals. And once the self is oriented towards a certain goal, what it does is to try to map the information in the content of what it's experiencing. And it maps that information in the content of that experience that it's having. It tries to become that thing. The goal is simply who you want to become. That's what goal is. And that's what the self exercises itself in doing. It tries to become things. So whether or not you like it, the self will always orient itself towards certain goals. But the question now becomes is the things that it's orienting itself to, are they the things that you actually want or not? Are they actually things that are empowering or not? Are they the things that you truly want? Are they the things that are truly good for you or not? And this is where self-optimization comes in. This is where the question of self-optimization comes in. It's about bringing leadership into your life. It's about bringing intention into your life. It's about bringing priority into your life. It's about bringing leadership and intentionality into your life, so that you can now decide what you want to become and what you don't want to become. Because left to your own devices, the self will go on, float on like a ship without rudder, and will become anything. So goal is simply a means through which you prioritize whom to become at each moment in your life. So at each moment in your life, you are becoming somebody. Whether or not, whether consciously or unconsciously, you are becoming somebody, because that's the natural state of the self. That's the way the self is simply organized. It has to become something. You wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, you read news on the social media, and consuming those information, it's having a lot of things. Neurons are changing in your brain, synapses are rewiring, your brain is reorganizing information in different ways, and that is changing who you are on a cellular level. So the question becomes, these changes that are happening on a cellular level, are they the things that you want or not? So self-optimization is about learning how to go back within yourself to draw value at any time you want it. And you cannot do that if you don't know how to control the flow of psychic energy that is coming from outside in form of information, in form of different signals. You have to learn how to control that, and you have to learn how to use that to become who you want to become. If you don't do that, you will look back in your life 50 years, 10 years, 15 years, in a month, 6 months, and you'll find out that you have gone through your life without, as a ship without rudder, and you don't know who you have turned out to become. So, in this sense, the self is a resource because it is the whirlpool of consciousness. So, you are experiencing different kind of reality. You are experiencing different kind of information coming into your consciousness. Things, everything that is in reality it's a whirlpool of infinite possibilities. And the self can decide to become any of those things. It can decide to create any of those things. The question becomes, can you take hold of the self and target it towards a specific end for it to become a particular thing? So the self is a resource that you can always go back to and draw value. So what it means is that if you're struggling in your finances, if you're struggling in your relationship, if you're struggling in your career, if you're struggling in your business, you can almost always go back to yourself and create a new version of yourself that can take care of that situation that you find yourself. What I usually tell people is that if you find yourself in a situation whereby you think that a particular problem that you face or a challenge that you face is impossible, look around you, check around you, search on the internet. You will find that you will find almost always people who have been in worse situations and have bounced back better off. How were they able to do that? If they can do that, then you can do that. You simply need to learn how to go back within yourself and reconfigure a new version of yourself that will be able to match that reality. That is what the self is. And that is what self-optimization is all about. So before I go ahead, let me just run through this. So in essence, self-optimization is summarized in these 3 sentences on your screen. Self-optimization is a process of optimizing the filter channel, the filter system, for assuming a new identity. Every time you have to become something, every time you're becoming something, whether you like it or not, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're becoming a new version of you. It's always emerging. A new reality is always coming up. Self-optimization is what gives you the ability to take hold of this process and to determine how the channel of psychic energy will flow in and out of you, what you will become, and the kind of identity you are assume at each moment. Self-optimization is simply about a goal-oriented life. It's about a life of leadership. Leadership is not just about leading others. As the famous quote, remember that for you to lead others, you must learn how to lead yourself. And the act of leading yourself, you cannot do that without mastering the skill of self-optimization. It is through self-optimization that you can learn how to control the flow of psychic energy in and out of you and to determine who you want to become at any moment. And finally, self-optimization is a system for making the most and drawing out the best value from yourself at each time and on demand. Pretty much feels like a superpower if you can go into yourself and become anything that you want and draw out any kind of value that you want on demand. There are specific skills that I'm going to teach you if you follow me on this 6 weeks course that I'm going to teach you and show you how you can almost always go back into yourself and draw value out of yourself and become anything on demand, no matter the situation you find yourself. So let me hear what you think so far. Let me hear your thoughts so far. What do you understand from what I've learned, what you have learned so far, what you have heard so far? What do you understand, and how is this actually sitting with you? I think I'll start with you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is off. I can't see her. Dr. Eileen. What have you learned so far?
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that I learned that there's a method to self-improvement. That's actually, I can see that happening. I would like you to repeat the last three quotes that you just posted, and then I think I can answer the question better. Thank you.
Okay. So I said that self-optimization is a process of optimizing the filter system, controlling the filter system, learning how to control the filter system of information flow for you to assume a new identity. It's the process of optimizing the filter system for assuming a new identity. So because of the self will always become something at each moment left to its own devices. So you want to learn how to do that to determine what you can become at each moment. So, and the second is the self-automation is simply about a goal-oriented life, a life that is oriented by goal. And the self, and this comes from the fact that the self is simply a hierarchy of goals. That's what it means. When you say, I am this person, your sense of self is a reality, a flow of consciousness that is organized in hierarchy of goals. That is why you are always thinking about a particular goal, what to do next, what to do now, what you did yesterday, what you're doing now, what you will do next, what you will do in the future. Is just that way. If you leave it to its own devices, it will do what it wants. And then the final is the self, and the final quote here is that self-optimization is a system for making the most use and drawing out the best value from yourself at its time and on demand.
Thank you. So far what I got from it is that I can once I redefine my goal, then I can also define what kind of information I want to accept to achieve that particular goal. But there was something else that you talked about, like right before you asked the question, and I can't quite remember what that was, but that was really a key to reinventing self. So if maybe we can go to Elizabeth first, and then get her feedback. But if you can remember what you said right before you asked the question, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So Elizabeth, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, good afternoon. Hi to everyone.
You're welcome, Elizabeth.
I joined late, it's true. I just have a question to ask based on the little I've heard. Is goal self-optimization different from goal? Please, I'm not hearing you. If you're talking, I'm not hearing at all
Your,
anything.
your mic is muted. Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Yeah, so to understand that, you have to understand the difference between when I said solve and go. And then if you joined earlier, you would have understood the differentiation, but I'm going to just do a quick recap. So when we talk about optimization, optimization, first of all, means the ability to make the most use of a resource. That's what the optimization means. To make the most use of a resource. And resource is something that you can always go back to and draw value from. And then we'll talk about the self. The self is simply the organization of information in consciousness to make it in hierarchy of goals. That's what the self means. The organization of information in consciousness in hierarchy of goals. As you're watching this video, you're experiencing a lot of things. As you're living your life, you wake up in the morning, you walk around the streets, you eat your food, you see a lot of things. You're experiencing a lot of things. But the information you're experiencing is organized. It appears to be organized. The reason why it's organized is because your sense, your consciousness, your mind developed some kind of a traffic cop, a traffic warder to control information and say, okay, this one is important, focus on this. This one is not important, don't focus on this. There's a part of your brain that is called the reticular activating system, and it's the part of the brain that determines what you're going to pay attention to and what you're not going to pay attention to at each given moment. So, practical example, notice if you decide that I'm going to buy a red sports car or a red or shoe, you would not instantly start noticing that if as you're walking on the street, if you start walking around the street, you start noticing red shoes or red sport cars. Those things have been always there all the time. The reason why you're not noticing them is because the self is a prioritization of goals. It is not important to you. So your mind, the self, filters out those information and then allows you to focus on only the ones that are very important to you. So that's why it's called a hierarchy of goals. And so what is goal? Goal is simply who you want to become. It is the channel through which the self becomes something. At each time, as you're paying attention to the world, as you're going about your life, yourself is constantly changing and becoming things. If you want to do anything, for you to effectively do that, your mind has to pay attention to that thing. The time when the mind is paying attention to that thing, it is actually mapping the structure of that thing. That is what's happening in your brain. Your brain, the cells in your brain, the neurons in your brain are rewiring and they are mapping the structure of that thing. It's as if there's some kind of a mathematical structure on earth that's reality itself. And the self is trying to map the length, the width, the breadth, the senses, how does it feel like to be this thing. So a practical example, let's say you want to learn how to become a doctor. You go to school and you're learning those information about the doctor. As you're reading all of those information, the self is mapping all of those things. And that is why as you're going through and learning something, notice that something happens during your learning process. You're always try to imagine yourself what it will be like you practicing that thing that you're doing after you've learned it. If you're a student in school, you're learning, okay, let's say you're learning how to play basketball. As you're doing that, from time to time, your mind will start imagining, what will it be like to me for me to be a great basketball player? You're in school, you're learning law. You'll be imagining what will it be like my final year in school and I become a lawyer and I'm in the courtroom and I'm adjudicating cases and I'm defending cases. What will it be like? That is the self trying to map the structure of that reality that you want to become. So that is to tell you that anything you're paying attention to, the self will automatically assume the identity of that thing and map it upon yourself. That is why when you are asked, who are you? Based on that, and after you've learned that, you tend to identify yourself with that which you have paid attention to. So goal is who you want to become. When we talk about goal, we're talking about the intention, you bringing intention into who you want to become. If you don't bring intentionality to set, when you set goals, that's what you're doing. You're bringing intentionality. So, okay, I want to become this thing actively. If you don't do that, the self is going to flood away and become anything. That is why people They go through life, and after 5 years, they have become poor. And they say, how did I turn out to become poor? Well, the self actually mapped the structure of poverty because of the kind of things you're paying attention to, the kind of people you are interacting with, the kind of people that you are mingling with, the kind of information that were feeding your mind. As you were doing those things unconsciously to you, that's a goal, but it's an unconscious goal. So when we talk about goal, it's about bringing intentionality. Self-optimization is now how you now use goals intentionally to teach yourself, to teach the self, say, this is who you want to, I want you to become this thing. And this is how you do it. That's the process. And I'm going to show you as we go forward how you can bring this intentionality, bring this leadership into your life to say, this is who I want to become, and this is who I don't want to become. This thing has a lot of implications for your finance, for your health, for your relationship, and for your business, and practically almost anything that you're going to do in your life. Sorry, I took too much time to explain it, but I hope you understood the point I was trying to make, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to run as quickly as possible so that I can try to cover what we have here before we run out of time, because I think we have 15 minutes to finish up. So to talk about the self, and let's now go into how can you now use the self-optimization to actually improve your life and to improve yourself and to make yourself, much better. We're going to focus on the core aspects of well-being. Why am I talking about the core aspects of well-being? For you to live a successful life at your own terms, check all the people who have become successful in different areas. You must learn how to optimize these three core aspects of yourself. And they must be under your control, and you must determine how information flows in through these three aspects of your life. You must learn how to optimize. And when I talk about well-being, I talk about the general well-being, the states of yourself whereby you're taking care of yourself and you're functioning at your peak. This is what's, if these three aspects of your life, your spirituality, the knowledge aspect of your life, and your health, if they are balanced, if they are in a state of equilibrium, if they are balanced, then you will witness what is called fulfillment. You will witness what is called contentment, and you will be okay with yourself. All the things we are struggling with in our life are all geared towards trying to optimize any of all these three aspects of our life. So these are the three core aspects of well-being in any human life. You want to learn how to optimize your life when it comes to your spirituality. You must learn how to optimize your life when it comes to your spirituality. And when I talk about spirituality, I don't mean religion. Religion is simply custom practice. It's a set of practices where you have to practice specific things that promise you spirituality, but it doesn't necessarily give you spirituality. If you practice religion the wrong way, it will not give you spirituality. Some people practice religion, and still get spirituality. Religion, when we talk about those custom practices, as a matter of fact, any activity that you invest your time in, that anything that you want to devote your time to become, you have to go through some kind of religious practice. Very important. You have to go through some kind of religious practice. That's religious practice. Do this in the morning, do this in the afternoon. Those practices that you are engaging in is simply discipline that you need to engage in order to achieve a reality that you want, in order to achieve a goal in the end. That's what practices are. There are sets of discipline that you need to go through in order to achieve something that you want. So what religion promises us is spirituality, spiritual contentment, the ability to control psychic energy, to control its flow in your own consciousness and in the consciousness of others. That's what religion promises us. And the way it does that, the way it promises us this spirituality, and it promises that if we go through a certain practices, if we fast in the morning, if we go to church, if we go to the mosque, if we practice this commandment, if we do these things, that we are going to attain that spiritual well-being. That is what religion promises us. So religion now becomes a path or a promise to spirituality. But the promise of something or the path towards something is not necessarily that thing. That thing is the goal, but it's not the path to it is not the goal. So people get it wrong when they focus on the customs and the practices of religion and then forget the goal of religion. The goal is spirituality, spiritual attainment. And what is spirituality? Spirituality is simply transcendence, transcendent meaning that you gain. When you are a spiritual person, is a person who has comprehended, who has meaning for his life, who has comprehended a meaning that transcends his own mortality, a meaning that transcends his own being. It's simply meaning at a very transcendent level. So when a spiritual person is a person, someone that actually understands this and knows how to control all of these realities. For you to attain spiritual transcendence, for you to attain spiritual well-being, you must possess spiritual skills. Because spiritual skills are the skills that allow you to control reality. To be able to do that, it involves the ability for you to control experience directly by manipulating means at increased harmony among your own thoughts, your own consciousness, and those of others, your emotions, and the wills. That's why we see some people who call the shamans, the priests, some philosophers, wise men and women. These are people who have learned how to control and manipulate those means so that they can achieve a state of transcendent meaning. Spiritual activity reduces entropy in consciousness. And what is entropy? Entropy means disorder, it means chaos. If you attain spiritual maturity, if you attain spiritual transcendence, if you attain spiritual well-being, you will be able to control, to bring order into your consciousness, and it creates harmony among competing desires by creating transcendent meaning. That's what it does. So it allows you to learn how to control the flow of information in your consciousness. You are not overtaken by your desires. You're not overtaken by your wants and your needs. You can learn how to keep yourself calm if you're going through a turbulent situation in life, and you still remain calm because you have the vision of a better future and you have the ability to create faith, to have faith in your process. So spiritual people are visionary people because without vision, you cannot create meaning. It's the vision that gives you meaning. So spiritual people are visionary people. If you tell me that you're a spiritual person and you're not a visionary person, that's not true. You're just practicing religion, the path to spirituality. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing that. So for you to achieve that spiritual transcendence, that meaning, you have to learn to live beyond yourself. When you achieve spiritual well-being, when you attain spirituality, that high consciousness of spirituality, it will empower you to do two things. It will empower you to live beyond yourself, and you begin to live for something that is much higher than you, a cause that is greater than you, something that is beyond you. And what that does, when you start living for a cause that is beyond it, something transcendent, a transcendent goal that is beyond you, what it does is that it comes to expand yourself. It allows you to expand the horizons of yourself. And you commit, and you now start to go beyond your comfort zone to become something you wouldn't have imagined that ordinarily you can do. And that is why you see people who are visionary. People like Mother Teresa, people like Nelson Mandela. Those are spiritual people because they pursued a cause that was much larger than them. And in the process of pursuing that cause that is much larger than them, they went beyond their comfort zone and they became something that they never imagined that they could become. We suffer for two reasons. The first reason that we suffer is when we are in our comfort zone. If you're in a comfort zone and you're not achieving your full potentials, you are going to suffer because you constantly live beyond or below your expectations. And the second reason why we suffer is when we are outside of our comfort zone. When you're outside of your comfort zone, you're striving to become something much higher, something much better, and you will still suffer. So you want to choose which reason for which you will suffer for. So when you have a spiritual sense, when you are on the path to spiritual transcendence, it allows you to go beyond yourself and to attain that. For you to attain this spiritual transcendence, you will need a guide. You will need to model others. You will need to model people who have attained this reality. The same happens for knowledge. For you to attain the spiritual transcendence, you will need knowledge to do that. You will need to be informed to do that. And this knowledge, you can still attain this knowledge through modeling. You other model people, you have to model others who have attained this reality. And for you to attain also well-being, you have to have health, because it's only person that is wealthy, that is healthy, can go about life in the way that they want it. So in essence, the simplest way for you to become anything is through modeling. That is the simplest way for you to become anything that you want. It is through modeling. And you have to, and the question now becomes, how do you model? You model in different ways. The first way you model is through study. You read books, you study. And what does study do? Study improves your awareness, it improves your perspective of things in life. It is not going to assure you ultimate success in life by studying, reading books. Because when you study and read books, you read about other people's life experiences. You learn what you learn from other people's experiences. What other people have experienced, they have organized that information and condensed it in a way that is understandable to others, and they have presented it in a condensed format. So when you read it, it improves your awareness and your perspectives about life, but it's not going to do the work for you. So even though it improves your awareness, it's not going to do the whole magic for you. But it's important to also improve your awareness, because there are different stages of awareness. And if you understand the stage that you are relative to what you're pursuing in life, it empowers you to know how to go about empowering yourself, optimizing yourself, going down within yourself, and knowing what work to do within yourself, not to draw the value that you need from yourself. For each stage of your life, there are different ways that you can do that. So I'll quickly run you through the 5 stages of awareness. The first stage of awareness is unconscious incompetence. This is the time when you are unconscious of your ignorance. You're ignorant of a particular thing. What you don't know, you don't know. It's when you don't know and you don't know that you don't know. And that's the worst state to be in, because you're going to be falling into troubles in your life. And without knowing why you're falling into that, you're going to be struggling with your life without knowing why you're struggling. And that's why we keep pursuing a lot of things in our life when we don't know that there are some different aspects of our life, things that we don't have awareness of, and we are struggling in those areas to succeed. So that's the first stage of awareness, when you're unconscious of your incompetence. Now, when you read books and attend programs like this and study, what it takes you from the stage of unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. So you move from being unconscious of your ignorance, you now become conscious of your ignorance. So at this stage, you're now aware that you are ignorant. And once you enter this stage, you know that you're now becoming wise, that you're now actually getting towards something. The worst stage to be in is when you don't know, and you don't know, you don't know, and you don't care that you don't know. So that is the second stage of consciousness, of awareness, when you now become conscious of your ignorance. And what it does for you is that when you enter the stage of conscious ignorance, you're now aware of your ignorance. That it now motivates you to now start seeking out knowledge so that you can fill the gap in your incompetence. And that will now lead you to start taking courses, taking programs. Do you understand? And then in order to fill that gap. And when you start doing that, you now enter into the third stage, which is conscious competence. Now you have learned how to do that. And so you have become conscious of your experience and you have now become competent in that act. So you now finally learn how to do that thing. But during this stage that you are consciously competent, you know that you have learned that thing. You can do that thing, but you can only do it when you pay attention. It's just like when you learn how to ride bicycle newly. You've learned how to ride it, but you cannot remove your attention from that activity, because if you remove your attention, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail in the act. So you need to consciously pay attention. So you need to be conscious in the act of performing that activity. So that is the stage of conscious competence. If you are in this stage, you have to continually practice in order to get to the fourth stage, which is unconscious competence. So at this stage, you have now attained mastery. You don't need to pay attention in performing that activity. And there are people who in this stage, they have attained this mastery and they can now perform that activity without paying attention. In different areas of your life, you can find that you can find yourself that in different areas of your life, you can find that you are in either one or any of these categories. So you want to learn to understand at what stage am I in my awareness with this reality that I'm trying to learn. So when you get to this stage of unconscious competence, that is the stage of mastery. When you become masters at this thing. Now, when you get to this stage, other people will start coming to you for you to instruct them, for you to lead them, to show them how to do this. But the problem now becomes that the mastery of something does not mean that you have also developed the mastery of transferring the knowledge. It doesn't mean that, because it appears that the part of your brain that masters how to perform a skill is not the same part of your brain that knows how to transfer that skill, how to teach that skill. So what do you do when you're in this process? When you're in the process of your conscious competence, when you're still in that third stage, conscious competence, when you're paying attention and doing that thing, when you're in your process of learning and you're going through your activities, you record what you're doing. You record your process. You document your process. That is what you should do. So that as you're going through the stage, you're documenting your process. So that when you're not come to the stage of you're not ignorant of your process, in the sense that you are unconsciously competent. You can now do things closing your eyes. You have now learned your process. You have documented your process, and you can now go back and use it to teach others. Say, this is how I did this thing. When you can do that, you have now entered into the stage, the final stage, which is conscious, overwhelming conscious competence. So which is here, you can now teach others through your process. This is the stages of awareness. So when you study, it only improves your awareness and your perspective so that you can now be conscious of what to do next. The second thing you need to do is you take courses and programs. So when you take courses and programs like this course, it gives you strategy. It gives you the strategy for you to execute. That's what courses and these programs do. Expand the scope of your consciousness, expand the scope of your awareness, and also gives you the specific strategies that you now need to apply things for yourself. Now, you now go from this stage and enter into the fourth stage, the third stage, which is about mentorship and coaching. Here, this is where you get results for your work. And if you go through this course and this program, if you're interested, this is where you can now seek to have a one-on-one with the person that is leading you, with your coach, so that you can now get results. A coach or a mentor will not remove the process of your journey, will not remove the process in your journey, but he can give you the results and then prepare you and then qualify you for those results. You can never get a result that you're not qualified. But when you're going through a process with a mentor, a coach, he can help you to get the results and then qualify you for those results. So this is the third stage that you go into. Now, the final stage is for you to now practice and review. This will improve your mastery and your progress. So the question now becomes, where should you start in all of this? We have laid out the whole thing here. Where actually should you start? So I will invite you to start with the community. Start with the Evolve community. We have the Evolve project. An Evolve project is a community of people who are interested in what I call personal development 2.0, who understand that personal development is a game that you ought to play all through your life. You have to, for you to constantly optimize yourself to become better at what you're doing, irrespective of what it is that you're doing. You have to put yourself in a place, in an environment where people are consciously active about themselves, about their process, and they want to consciously improve and get better. So I will invite you to join the Evolve community. And how do you join that? I'll invite you to sign up. We have a program in our community, and what it actually do here is to empower you with the right tools and skills. This course, this session that you attended today, will actually take you on a 6 weeks course where you will learn step by step what it will take for you to optimize yourself in different areas of your life. We talked about accessing the resources that are in your environment, understanding what a resource is, understanding who yourself is, who you are, the definition of yourself, the capacities that are within yourself. This is what this course is going to guide you in. It's a 6 week course. In the first week, I'm going to guide you to identify and to learn how to create from the infinite resource that is within you and that is outside you. You will learn how to see that even from the most minuscule things that are around you that you feel that are useless, that you can also find meaning in them, and that the answers to the questions that have nagged you, that have bothered you over the years, actually lies in the things that are around you and also within you. So I'm going to walk you through step by step so that you can learn how to identify those resources that are within you and that are outside you. That is what is, I'm going to teach you the cognitive skills that are required to help you to do that. Now, in the second week, I'm going to help you in what I call self-decoding. The process of self-decoding, what it actually does for you is to learn how to answer the questions of what am I and who am I? These are the two questions that you need to answer in order to properly understand yourself. The question of what am I helps you to understand, to define yourself, and the question of who am I helps you to interpret yourself. When you interpret yourself, you attach meaning to your sense of self, and from that, you create a sense of meaning. You create a sense of self-worth. This sense of self-worth is what affects you when you're making decisions in your business, in your career. When you go out and you talk to people, when you go out, ever wonder why you go out and you talk to people, people don't tend to respect you? Or when you talk to people, you don't get to become successful in trying to convince others to do what you want. Or at a certain point, you are pursuing your success and you're almost at, getting that thing, and then all of a sudden you sabotage yourself. The ability for you to be able to overturn these things lies in how you understand the sources that come together to create your sense of self. There are different sources that come together to create your sense of self, memories that have accumulated over the years to come to create your sense of self. In the second week of this course, I'm going to help you to decode all of that so that you can go back to these memories, go back to yourself and identify what you are and who you are. Two critical, important questions that any person that needs to succeed needs to answer in their life. In the third week, I'm going to take you through the process of how, after you have understood who you are. After you have defined yourself and interpreted yourself, we can now lead you to a step-by-step process that you learn, that will now empower you to mine the resources that are within yourself. It's in the second week that you are going to identify the resources that you have within yourself, the virtues that you have within yourself that you can convert to your wealth. After you have identified these virtues, we will now create a step-by-step program for you that will empower you to mine the resources within yourself, to identify the virtues within yourself, and to learn how to convert those virtues to products and services that you can sell. The current business that you're doing, the current job that you're doing, how you can use the skills, how you can use the resources that are already within yourself to learn how to mine those resources and then use it to improve your work, improve your activities, and then use it to convert them into products and services that people will be glad to patronize you over, and things that will benefit the world in your process. This is what we're going to happen in the third week. In the fourth week, I'm going to teach you how to actually set goals. It's a program that is called Gold Craft. And this points to the question that Elizabeth asked in earlier. I'm going to take you on a process where you can learn how to set goals and attain those goals. Where you understand that goals is not really about what you are aiming at, but it's more about yourself, how you define yourself with respect to that thing that you're aiming at. It's called Goalcraft. And I'm going to teach you so that you can learn how to identify the right goals for yourself and then learn how you can optimize yourself to attain those goals. Now, in the fifth week, we're going to finally show you how to manifest these goals after you have set them appropriately and after you have gone through the process. We'll show you how to manifest these goals for yourself and for the people around you. And then the final week, we're going to enter into rapid execution, where you now start executing these things so that they can become your reality and so that your success will not elude you. So this is a 6 weeks power course program that you're going to go through. If you're interested in this program and if you love to be part of it, I'll enjoy you to sign up to a community. I'm going to share with you, sign up to our community, be part of us. Now, what will happen when you join us? What will happen when you join us? When you join us, after now, I'm going to share the link so that you can have access to the Evolve community. When you join us, you will have a 6-week program. Sorry, you will have 2 packages. We'll have 2 packages under our program, and those 2 packages are the Evolve Basic and the Evolve Premium. For each of these 2 packages, you have a 30-day trial period, a free trial period. So within this 30-day period, and we're going to start this course, once you register, you can take these courses. You can even conclude the courses depending on how fast you go. So within this 30-day period, you can have access to our sessions. Any session that we have, you have access to them. You will have access to my books, the 3 books I've written so far. You'll have access to our book reading club, where we read these books and other books, which happens every Wednesday on Clubhouse. You'll have access to everything that is within the package of the Evolve membership. You'll have access to it in the basic program. And you can also take this course for this period and for this period of 30 days. Now, after the 30 days, you automatically will be charged based on the plan that you have selected. So if you went for the Evolve Basic plan, it's $30 per month. But if you go for the Evolve Premium, you're going to have access to all the packages that are within the Evolve Basic. You're going to have access to all of that, and then you also have the ability to have access to a one-on-one session with me. So what it means is that as you are going through your process, as you are going through all of this process, you will still be able to you're going to encounter a lot of questions for yourself. You're going to have a lot of questions and you're going to want to answer those questions. So you can have and book one-on-one session with me where I will help you to break down these things in your process. So For the Evolve Basic, it's $30 per month, which translates to 18,000 naira per month. And for the Evolve Premium, you get to pay $350 for the whole year. And so you pay that, you have access to everything that is in the Evolve Basic, and you still have access to a one-on-one session with me. And that will cost $350, which translates to 210,000 naira in a year. So if you're interested, you can sign up and join us and begin this journey. You have a 30-day free trial period. If you love what you're getting after the 30-day period elapses, you can begin paying. If you don't love it, you can, opt out and then continue your life, as you go on. But my prayer is that you go on with this journey and that you learn how to optimize yourself by learning how to master the systems, the cognitive skills, and the resources that are already within you that are latent. These things that make it seem as if that other people are achieving success and we are not achieving any success. You can go through that process. It's very simple. It's happening for me and it's happening for a lot of people out there. That can also be your story. And I pray that you go through this process so that you can make that your own story. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to call upon you guys. Share with me, what have you learned so far? Elizabeth, Dr. Eileen, Covenant. Let me hear from you guys. Okay, so yeah, Elizabeth just asked, what's the she says the equivalent of the basic is how much, please? So the basic plan is $30. Its equivalent in naira is 18,000 naira. So that's every month for that. So if you've got any questions, more questions, you can ask. Yeah, Dr. Allen, you can go ahead.
I actually want to ask you, when you say that resource, and creativity, I'm finding it difficult lately to regenerate, because I'm usually a very out of the box thinker and very creative. I'm managing many projects and I felt like my creative juice is running out the door, or I should say I need time to replenish. So I wanted to know if there's a way to do it. And of course you mentioned resource, resource is something that we can get back continuously. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. So I said that the self is a resource. You can mute yourself so that the whole bar. Okay, thank you. So in my explanation, I said that the self is a resource. And I define that resource is something that you can always go back to and draw value. It's a stock of reservoir. It's more like a reservoir of value where you can always go back to and draw value. So what it means is that if there's anything that in your life that you can go back to and draw value, that then ceases to be a resource. And the self is a resource. But most times we don't understand it. But it's a tricky kind of resource because the self is the whirlpool of consciousness. Consciousness is every experience that is happening as you're perceiving them. So there's infinite possibilities coming into your consciousness. Everything is possible practically. Like in theory, everything is possible. But how you take something and take it from the world of possibility to probability. Possibility is that there is a chance that something will happen. That's what possibility is. Probability is that there's a chance that that will happen for you. to convert the ability to take something to change it from possibility to probability. So you're changing it from the fact that it can happen and make that it can happen for you is the process of self-optimization that happens through goal setting. So Goalcraft helps you. Self-optimization is a specific method that you use to attain, goals for yourself. Because the self is a hierarchy of goals. That's what the self is. You are perceiving different goals that you want for your life in different hierarchies. The self is constantly organizing goals. This one is more important than this. This one is more important than this. This one is more important than this. Self-optimization is a system that allows you to determine how to set this hierarchy of goals. So when we talk about creativity is a different kind of cognitive skill. But it's also the ability for you to go back within yourself and then look at your environment and then learn how to map it in order to come up with insights. That's the key word there. Learn how to come up with insights that can solve problems for you. And there's a process for that. That's it. There's a different course I have for that teaches you about learning how to leverage creativity, learn how to leverage the cognitive skills that will allow you to come upon those insights. So it is a capacity that we have, and that capacity developed after we developed the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the last phase of the human brain that human beings evolved in the process of evolution. The prefrontal cortex, and it's the part that allows you to leverage the other network part of your brain and to organize them to solve specific problems in new ways. If you read my book, The Journey to 1%, I actually described creativity, how it actually happens, how you organize information in order to come upon creativity, and how it actually happens in the brain. So you can check that out. But I have a specific course, that is designed for that. What actually happens in the process of creativity is that you train your mind to learn how to make connections and to learn how to organize chaotic information in order to come upon a variable solution. And there's a process you have to go there. So it's not a question that is usually answered on a generic sense. It will have to focus on a specific problem that you want to solve. So let's say you come up with a specific problem you want to solve, and then we can then identify what is the solution going to look like. And then I can design a program for you that will take you through a process that will allow you, so that as you're going through that process, you will eventually stumble upon the insights that will come upon that solution. But creativity is about stumbling on insights. It's about learning how to organize your life, organize the flow of information so that you can elicit the natural capacity that your brain has to come up with insights, to make connections and to come up with insights. That's what creativity is all about. And you have to train yourself in that art. If you are looking to be creative, there are certain kind of activities you shouldn't engage in. If you want to be creative, you cannot be in, it will be in your best interest to adopt the kind of mindset that will allow you to be open-minded. And most times we think we are open-minded, but we are not. There are certain kinds of activity we engage in that make us not to be open-minded. There's a way that you think that actually makes you or predisposes you and forces you not to be open-minded. When you're looking to come upon a creative solution, you would have to train yourself. You have to train yourself to become open-minded. You have to train yourself through certain cognitive skills that will allow you to learn how to use ideas to become a prostitute with ideas. That's how I describe it in my book, The Journey to 1%. Learn how to become a prostitute and a thinker with ideas, not hold anyone to heart, but learning how to interact and mix with ideas at any time that you want it. It is a cognitive skill that you learn, but it differs based on the problem that you want to solve. So I don't know how to answer your question, but I think in a nutshell, this what is it about?
I am a little lost still, like how to get in. And you mentioned something, but I didn't really get enough sleep last night, so there was something that kind of sank in, but then it kind of ran away really quickly. I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do I get back in tune, you know, into that infinite source of creativity. I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I think that is something that I have to take up with you on a one-on-one basis, because there are a couple of questions that we need to unearth that will help you to arrive at that place where you can become infinitely capable to leverage certain cognitive skills that will help you to become open-minded, to learn how to play with ideas, to learn how
Oh,
to identify the right ideas
yes,
that will lead you to
the
creative
word
solutions.
open-minded. I always felt like I'm very open-minded, and that's one of the reasons why. But then I'm also judgmental. I can be judgmental. Maybe that's the problem. Um, I, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Like, I'm not sure if being judgmental has being discerning or judgmental has anything to do with, like, I can be very open-minded, compared to most people I know. So I do feel like, okay, there's another thing that I was talking to someone, and he's a translator, and he refuses to translate more than 20 minutes at a time from French to English. And he said that's because it's gonna burn my brain. Like, it's gonna hurt me intellectually. And I feel like I may be suffering from that. I feel like there's so many things that's drawing on my creativity that um I basically bottom out, but I didn't have enough time to recover it. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I can respond to any of those comments.
So there's a lot of things that is, yeah. So you can mute yourself. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are bunched up in that question, and those are things that probably have to explore personally with you. If we did that, if we started doing that now, we wouldn't end the session because we're already out of time. It's a lot of um, things that you need to do in order to prime yourself to get to that thing. You need to acquire certain cognitive skills, like I said, and part of those cognitive skills is learn how to manage ideas. You have to understand what ideas are and to learn how to manage them. You have to learn what I call mental dexterity. Mental dexterity is one of the skills. As you go through the courses, one of the skills that I teach in my book, and the Journey to 1%, is what allows you to learn how to play with ideas, to learn how to understand ideas for what they are, and to learn how to play with them, to learn how to play with ideas in a way that it affects your belief, and beliefs affect your emotions. These are a couple of things that you need to learn. So it's not something we can't explore all of that here because of time, but hopefully it's something that you can do one-on-one, or you can read up my book. The chapter on mental dexterity actually answer a lot of these questions that you asked, but because of time, may not be able to attend to all of them. Any other
No, it's
questions?
okay. No, it's okay because I have private meetings with you anyway, so it's we can talk about that at that time. Thank you.
So I'm gonna stop the recording here so that the people who are gonna go back and watch this video wouldn't have to struggle with the time and the length. So any other questions we can take privately.